My brother told my girlfriend lies to break us up, so I showed her the truth. Cut him off, and we got stronger without him. I'm a 24-year-old guy, and I've always had a complicated relationship with my older brother. Growing up, it was like he had this invisible scoreboard in his head where I was always losing, even when I didn't know we were competing. He was charming, smooth, and somehow everyone, including my parents, always seemed to side with him. I, on the other hand, was loud, blunt, and apparently too intense or overreacting whenever I spoke up. That dynamic spilled over into my adult life in ways I never expected, especially when I met Emma. Emma was different from anyone I'd ever dated. She laughed at my terrible jokes, reminded me to slow down when I overthought, and somehow managed to see past all the anxiety I carried around like a heavy coat. Being with her felt effortless, like breathing for the first time in years. But of course, nothing that simple ever lasts. My brother Josh had always been competitive. He couldn't stand the idea that I was happy, really happy, in a relationship he had no control over. At first, I brushed off his little digs, compliments turned sour, comments on how Emma is probably too good for you that sounded joking, but carried venom. I ignored it, laughed it off. But there was something in the way he watched me with her, like a predator sizing up prey. It was subtle, almost invisible at first, the way he leaned into conversations with her, laughed a little too loudly at her jokes, and then gave me that half-smile that made my stomach twist. I felt it in my gut, a tiny alarm bell, but I wanted to trust that Emma and I were stronger than any of his games. I just didn't know yet that the storm had already started, and that storm had a name, my own brother. And then, one Saturday afternoon, everything started to shift, and not in a way I could have imagined. It started with little things. Emma would text me less, or pause awkwardly during our calls, and I brushed it off at first. She's probably busy, I'd tell myself. But my gut kept twisting, a quiet nagging that something was off. Then came the first time she actually said it out loud. "Hey, did Josh say something to you?" she asked one evening, her voice soft, unsure. My heart jumped, and I tried to keep it steady. "No, why?" "What did he say?" I replied, forcing casualness into my tone, even though the pit in my stomach was growing. I don't know. He mentioned something about you that didn't sound right," she admitted, avoiding my gaze. I froze. Something about her hesitation made my chest tighten. I wanted to laugh it off, pretend it was nothing, but I knew better. Josh had always had a way of twisting words, making them sound harmless until the target was already cornered. Over the next few days, I started noticing patterns. Emma would hesitate before answering certain questions. She'd glance at me with that conflicted look, and I could see her mind racing. Josh would pop up in her texts, dropping casual comments that seemed innocent but subtly planted doubt. "Are you sure he really meant that?" Or, "I wouldn't trust him too much with that." Nothing direct. Nothing I could confront him on yet. One night, I caught them texting almost simultaneously, Josh making a joke that I knew would make Emma question me, and her laughing nervously. I swallowed hard, the knot in my stomach tightening. My brother was getting to her, I could feel it, and that's when the dread started to set in. It wasn't just jealousy anymore, it was a calculated move. Every laugh, every smile, every tiny comment was a brick in the wall he was building between us. I wanted to say something, to protect what I had. But I didn't know how to fight a war I couldn't see clearly yet. And then, one message came through that made my chest stop entirely, and I realized this wasn't just a game anymore. The message hit my phone at 2 a.m., a notification I wished I could unsee. Josh had sent Emma something that made me look like a liar, like I'd been hiding things from her all along. I stared at it for a long time, frozen, my fingers shaking. The panic in my chest was suffocating. I felt betrayed, not by Emma, but by the one person I thought I could at least predict. My brother. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I sat down with Emma over coffee, keeping my voice steady. "Hey, did you get that message from Josh last night?" I asked gently. She hesitated, and I could see the uncertainty in her eyes. "Yeah, I got it. I don't know. It sounded weird, I guess. I don't know what to think." My stomach twisted. Every word she said was carefully measured, like she was testing me, unsure if she could trust me anymore. I wanted to grab her hands and shake some sense into her, to make her see I wasn't lying, I wasn't hiding anything, but I couldn't. Not yet. Josh's influence was creeping in, subtle but venomous. He had this way of weaving a story that made me look like the villain, the untrustworthy one. I could feel my confidence eroding minute by minute. Even friends started noticing my distracted mood, asking what was wrong, and I brushed them off with fake smiles. I tried confronting Josh directly, but he was smooth, charming, denying everything with a casual shrug. "Come on, man, don't take everything so seriously," he said, and my anger boiled silently. He knew exactly what he was doing, and it terrified me. By midweek, the tension between Emma and me was palpable. I could see her questioning glances, hear the doubt in her voice even when she was trying to reassure me. And all the while, Josh was smiling somewhere, convinced he was winning. I realized then, with a sick knot in my stomach, that this wasn't just a misunderstanding. He wanted to destroy us brick by brick, lie by lie, and I had no idea how far he would go. By the time Thursday rolled around, I could feel the cracks forming in what had always felt like an unshakable bond with Emma. She was quieter on the phone, distracted during our texts, and there was this constant hesitation in her tone that made my chest tighten. I could tell she wanted to believe me, wanted to trust me, but Josh's lies had begun to seep into every conversation, every doubt she didn't even realize she was harboring. We met for dinner that evening, and the air was thick. The restaurant smelled of grilled meat and lemon-scented candles, but nothing could cut through the tension between us. I reached across the table, trying to catch her eyes. "Emma, please, I didn't do anything. You know me. You know I'd never lie to you," I said, voice low but urgent. She shook her head slightly, biting her lip. "I want to believe you. I really do, but he said some things about you. Things that just, I don't know." I felt my stomach drop. Every word she spoke sounded like glass shattering somewhere deep inside me. My brother had managed to insert himself between us so seamlessly that I almost couldn't see it until it was too late. Later, walking home, the night air was cold, the faint hum of cars and distant chatter only emphasizing how alone I felt. My hands were shoved deep into my pockets, and I kept replaying every interaction I'd had with Josh, trying to find where I'd gone wrong, where I could have stopped this. But there was nothing I could do to erase the manipulation he'd already planted. By the weekend, friends noticed Emma's distance too. She would glance nervously at me when Josh's name came up, her trust shaken in a way I had never seen before. Every text she sent seemed filtered, cautious, like she was measuring every word, and then, just as I thought the tension couldn't get any worse, I found a message Josh had sent her that was far more personal, far more calculated, and it made my blood run cold. He wasn't just trying to confuse her anymore. He was trying to destroy us. It all came crashing down on Sunday afternoon. I was scrolling through old group texts on my phone, something I had avoided because I didn't want to see the full extent of Josh's manipulation. But there it was. A thread between him and a mutual friend. A casual conversation that, once pieced together, exposed every lie he had fed Emma. My hands shook, my chest ached, and for a moment I felt like I couldn't breathe. Every doubt, every pause, every nervous glance Emma had given me suddenly made sense. I sat on my bed, staring at the screen, rereading his messages over and over. He had twisted my words, fabricated stories about things I'd never done, and even planted ideas that I had been dishonest with her about my past. It was meticulous, cruel, and sickeningly effective. I realized then that this wasn't just brotherly rivalry or jealousy. It was calculated sabotage. I needed to confront him, to tear the mask off that smug face he wore so well. But anger wasn't enough. I had to protect Emma first. I debated telling her immediately, but I wanted to do it carefully, to present the evidence in a way that wouldn't overwhelm her. I couldn't risk him spinning it yet again. Later that evening, Emma came over, her eyes tired, her smile forced. I invited her to sit and took a deep breath. "Emma, I need you to see something. I need you to know the truth, all of it," I said, holding my phone out toward her. She hesitated, confusion clouding her face. "What is it?" I explained slowly, showing her the messages piece by piece. Her eyes widened, disbelief and shock mingling in equal measure. I can't believe he would do this, she whispered, voice trembling. I know, I said, gripping her hand. I never wanted you to doubt me, but he's been manipulating everything from the start. The weight lifted slightly in that moment. Emma's trust started to rebuild, but the anger simmering inside me was unstoppable. I knew one thing for certain. Josh had crossed a line he would never recover from. And just as I thought I could finally breathe, my phone buzzed again. Another message from him. Emma sat on the edge of the couch, gripping my hand like it was the only anchor keeping her grounded. Her eyes were wide, brimming with a mix of hurt, confusion, and betrayal. I can't believe he'd go this far, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the apartment. I shook my head, feeling the same mixture of anger and disbelief. Josh had systematically tried to destroy something real, something pure between us, and now we were facing the aftermath together. I walked her through everything, starting from the first subtle lies, the half-truths, and the twisted comments he'd made over the past few weeks. I read out the messages from Josh, showing her how every word was calculated to make me look bad, to plant seeds of doubt in her mind. Emma's grip on my hand tightened with each revelation, a physical manifestation of the shock she was feeling. I never wanted to doubt you, she said, her voice breaking. But it was so confusing. It felt real, like maybe I was imagining things. You weren't, I replied, my voice firm but gentle. None of it was real. None of it came from me. He's the one who wanted this chaos, and I'm not letting him win. The apartment felt thick with tension, the air heavy with the scent of coffee and her lingering perfume. We sat there for what felt like hours, piecing together the lies and realizing just how far Josh had gone. Emma's face softened as the understanding settled in, a mix of relief and sorrow. By the end of the night, we made a silent pact. No more secrets, no more room for doubt, and no more interference from Josh. Our bond, tested and strained, had started to strengthen again. But deep down, I knew the real confrontation hadn't even begun. Josh would not go quietly, and the thought of facing him made my stomach twist. And just as I let myself think we were safe, my phone buzzed with a notification. Josh had sent her another message. The next morning, I could feel it. Josh was watching. Not literally, but the tension he radiated around family gatherings, casual texts, and even mutual friends made it impossible to ignore. Every laugh he threw at a joke, every smirk when he glanced my way, was a reminder that he thought he was still in control. I wanted to snap, to confront him right then and there, but I knew it had to be done strategically. He thrived on chaos, on making me react before I was ready. At brunch with family, he sat across from me, the smirk never leaving his face. "You two look cozy," he said lightly, but there was an edge underneath, a calculated jab meant to provoke. I kept my smile polite, but my fists clenched under the table. Emma squeezed my hand subtly, her eyes warning me not to escalate. Later, in the quiet of my apartment, I replayed our past interactions with him. The small manipulations, the lies, the perfectly timed comments, he had orchestrated it all like a puppeteer. And now, after I'd exposed him to Emma, he was shifting strategies. I could sense his next move would be bigger, more aggressive. I tried to prepare myself mentally, running through what I would say, how I would keep my cool. I thought about the rock-bottom moment we were inevitably heading toward, when he would push too far, when I would feel powerless, and when Emma might even question me again under his pressure. The thought of it made my stomach churn. But in the same tense moments, I reminded myself of the truth. Emma knew the reality now. The lies had been revealed. And no matter what Josh tried next, he couldn't undo that bond. Yet the fear of the confrontation, the anticipation of the inevitable verbal showdown, was suffocating. Every text, every casual comment, every laugh from him felt like a ticking time bomb. And then, late that night, a text appeared on my phone. It wasn't from Emma. It was from Josh, short, sharp, and threatening. "We need to talk, face to face." That night, I couldn't sleep. The words from Josh's text echoed in my mind. "We need to talk. face to face. My stomach churned, my chest felt heavy, and a cold knot of dread settled deep inside me. I replayed every interaction I'd had with him over the past weeks, every subtle manipulation, every lie he had told Emma, and I felt utterly powerless. The idea of confronting him terrified me, not because I doubted my truth, but because I didn't know how far he would go to destroy me. Emma noticed my restless pacing and came to sit next to me. "Hey, talk to me," she said softly, her hand resting on mine. I wanted to tell her everything, to spill the anxiety and fear gnawing at me, but even her presence couldn't chase away the storm brewing inside. I don't know what he's going to do," I admitted, voice tight. She squeezed my hand. "We're in this together," she said. But even her reassurance couldn't completely erase the fear. My mind raced with possibilities. What if he tried to turn her against me again? What if he said something public, humiliating, irreparable? I felt the weight of every past betrayal, every shadow of doubt Josh had ever planted, crushing me in that quiet room. I stared at the ceiling, counting ceiling tiles, trying to calm my pulse. But nothing worked. The apartment was silent, yet the tension was deafening. The air smelled faintly of the takeout we'd ordered hours ago, but even comfort food felt empty against the anxiety pressing down on me. By 3 a.m., I realized I had hit a new low. I wasn't just frustrated, I felt cornered, trapped by someone who should have been family. My mind kept cycling through worst-case scenarios, and for the first time, I questioned whether I could protect Emma, myself, or our relationship from his manipulation. And just when I thought I couldn't feel any smaller, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Josh, short, direct, chilling. "Tomorrow. We settle this. No excuses." The next afternoon, I met Josh at the small park near our childhood home, the place where our fights had always seemed to end in uneasy truce. The air was crisp, and the smell of freshly cut grass mixed with the faint exhaust from passing cars. My hands were shoved deep into my pockets, my jaw tight, heart hammering. I could see the smug look on his face before he even spoke. "Finally decided to face me, huh?" he said, his tone light but edged with menace. I forced myself to stay calm. "Yeah, we need to talk," I replied evenly, keeping my voice low. Josh circled me like a predator, smirking. "So, you think you've won?" "You showed her the truth. Big deal." She's still confused. "You still don't know how much she doubts you." Every word made my blood boil. "No," I said, stepping closer. "She knows the truth. And you? You've crossed every line you possibly could." "This ends today," he laughed, the sound sharp and hollow. "You think cutting me off will stop me?" "You're so naive." I felt the rage bubbling inside me, but I kept my tone steady. "I don't care what you think. I don't need your approval. You've tried to destroy everything important to me, and I'm done letting you control my life." For a moment, he faltered, just slightly, that smug confidence cracking for a second. I saw it. I had the upper hand. "You don't get it, do you?" he said finally, quieter this time. "I always win." "You've never won anything," I snapped. "You've only made yourself look pathetic." Josh stared at me, realization dawning, before finally turning on his heel and walking away. I felt a mix of triumph and exhaustion. The confrontation was over, but the adrenaline still pulsed through my veins. I pulled out my phone, and there was a text from Emma. "Everything okay?" I typed back quickly, "Yeah, it's done. He's done." As I pocketed the phone, I took a deep breath, feeling the tension in my chest start to loosen. But even in that relief, I knew life after Josh would be different, stronger, and freer. And that moment, the first real exhale in weeks, was just the beginning. The days after the confrontation were surreal. Josh no longer had the same control over my life, but the residue of his manipulation lingered like a shadow. I started taking steps to cut him out completely, blocking his social media, changing routines to avoid accidental encounters, and setting boundaries with friends who still communicated with him. It felt strange at first, like removing a limb I had subconsciously relied on for so long, but each step brought a sense of liberation. Emma was my anchor through all of it. We sat together on the couch one evening, her head resting against my shoulder, as I explained the boundaries I was putting in place. "I don't want him anywhere near our lives anymore," I said firmly. She nodded, her eyes serious but calm. "You're doing the right thing. I feel safer with you, without him meddling." The first week without contact was tense. My phone buzzed with notifications from friends, asking if I was okay or if I had responded to Josh. Each time I ignored them, determined not to give him even a hint of my emotional reaction. I realized something crucial. Cutting him off wasn't just about avoiding his manipulation. It was about reclaiming my peace, my sanity, and my relationship. Family gatherings became less stressful. I no longer had to navigate his sideways comments, subtle digs, or thinly veiled threats. Emma and I could laugh freely, share inside jokes, and enjoy each other's company without that oppressive tension looming over us. The air felt lighter, the world less suffocating. Even so, there were moments when I caught myself expecting him to show up somewhere, to ruin a moment or plant doubt again. But each time, I reminded myself that I had already won. He had lost his influence over my life. And with that thought came a deep, almost intoxicating sense of empowerment. By the end of the week, I realized that life without Josh wasn't just possible. It was better, healthier, freer. And for the first time in weeks, I truly felt like I could breathe again. But as I looked at Emma, laughing at something silly, I said, I knew the final step of fully reclaiming our lives was yet to come. With Josh cut out of our lives, Emma and I finally had space to breathe, to rebuild what his lies and manipulation had almost destroyed. The tension that had clung to every interaction with her slowly lifted, replaced by a warmth I hadn't realized I was missing. Our relationship started feeling effortless again, like the beginning all over, but stronger, deeper, and wiser. We spent long evenings talking about everything, the past, our fears, and how we could prevent anyone from ever coming between us again. "I feel like I can trust you fully now," Emma said one night, leaning against me on the couch. Her eyes were bright, but I could see the scars of doubt lingering just beneath the surface. "I'll always tell you the truth," I promised, my hand covering hers. No secrets, no lies, no room for manipulation. Even mundane moments became moments of healing. Cooking together in the kitchen, binge-watching old shows, or taking long walks, everything felt infused with a sense of security and mutual understanding. The arguments that once seemed catastrophic now felt minor, insignificant compared to the storm we had weathered together. I also noticed changes in myself. I was calmer, more assertive, and less afraid to speak up when something felt wrong. I realized how much energy I had wasted worrying about Josh, about proving myself to him, about defending my worth. That energy was now ours, Emma's and mine, and we poured it into nurturing our relationship, our friendship, and our trust. Friends and family noticed the shift too. People commented on how grounded we seemed, how we were clearly stronger together. And while Josh occasionally tried small passive-aggressive moves, they barely registered. He had lost his power. We had taken it back. By the end of this chapter in our lives, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known before. We had survived manipulation, lies, and betrayal, and we had come out on the other side stronger, closer, and ready to face life without anyone trying to control us. But I knew that the final, ultimate test, the last piece of closure, was still ahead. It all came to a head a few weeks later. Josh, thinking he still had a foothold somewhere, tried one last move, sending a group message to our mutual friends, painting me as the villain and implying that Emma was misled by me. I saw it instantly, my chest tightening as I read his words, but this time it didn't scare me. This time I was ready. I called Emma immediately. "He's trying one last time," I said calmly. Her voice was steady. "I don't even care. He's done. Let him twist in his own mess." We decided to respond not with anger, but with transparency. Emma posted a simple message. "We're fine. Everything is clear. Lies don't last." It was short, firm, and left no room for manipulation. Within minutes, our friends started replying with support, expressing relief that the truth was out. Josh's attempt to cause chaos backfired completely. The sense of empowerment that washed over me was overwhelming. For the first time in weeks, I felt in control. Not just of the situation, but of my life, my relationship, and my emotions. Emma and I hugged, laughing through tears, feeling lighter than we had in months. Every lie, every manipulation, every sleepless night had led us here, stronger than ever. I reflected on how toxic his influence had been, how easily a close family member could destabilize trust between two people who loved each other. But I also realized how resilient we were, how honest communication and evidence could dismantle the most calculated schemes. The bond between Emma and me wasn't just intact, it was fortified, tested by fire and emerging unbreakable. And in that moment, I finally let go of Josh completely. I no longer felt the need to prove myself, to explain, or to worry. He had no power over us anymore, and that realization brought a profound peace. I looked at Emma, smiled, and whispered, "We're stronger without him." And for the first time in months, I truly believed it. The lies had been exposed, the manipulation destroyed, and our love, untouchable.